Welcome to His Place for You podcast, where there's always a place for you at the Father's table. Come on in and take your seat. Welcome to His Place for You podcast, where there's always a place for you at the Father's table. I'm Brooke Hicks, and I am honored, I am thrilled to have one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. Y'all, I'm from the South, and I affectionately call her my mamaw. So she's your mamaw right now, and today we're going to talk about radical and unusual testimonies in our family. And so we're going to take it from there.
Okay.
So welcome, mamaw.
Thank you. Hope my brain's still working this morning.
Yeah, welcome to the studio. And I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to just pick your brain and let you talk. Put your mouth on autopilot and share your stories, because you've seen a lot of things in your life. And truthfully, I would not be living for Jesus. I would not be living for the Lord if it wasn't for your prayers, if it wasn't for you staying up at 2 a.m. praying for me when I was out doing crazy stuff. Like literally you sent angels to drive me home, and maybe we could talk about that today, but maybe not. But we're going to focus on the fact that you were a preacher's kid. You were a PK.
Yep.
But what I find so interesting about all these stories is that you weren't raised at first. You were not raised as in a Christian home.
No.
So your mom and dad were just living a nice life in what, the 40s or the 50s time period?
Probably 50s.
50s.
I'm not sure about that.
But your mother, we'll start with her, because if it wasn't for Mamaw Moni, your mother, I don't know if any of us would be here living for Jesus.
You're right.
So start us out with where she was. I believe you said she was under conviction for several weeks.
Yes. Yes, and different people were praying for her. And so finally, one day while she was making jelly, we had grapevines, and so we had a lot of grapes. And while she was making jelly, that's when she could give her heart to the Lord. She got saved making jelly.
I just wonder what God might have been saying to her as she was preparing those grapes.
Yeah.
You know? But she got radically, it's like when you're under conviction, it's like a weight on you. It's like everything accumulates on you. I know, because for me, my experience, I was in a Baptist church, and I had felt the conviction. I had felt something going on the inside of me for weeks and weeks and weeks, but I just kept shrugging it off. And then my guard was down, and I was sitting sitting in the pews at a homecoming service, and the speaker was like, okay, we're all going to bow our heads. We're all going to just go ahead and pray and open up the service. I heard the Lord speak to me so strong, and he said, this is your last chance. And boom. I didn't have to think for a second. Oh, was that God? Was that me? No. His voice was like thunder. And I ran to the front, but I felt the weight in this, and I had such a sin consciousness that I never had before. So that's what happened to your mom. She just fell under the power, making that jam, making that grapes. What I love about this story is that she went a couple years just being saved and loving Jesus. And she went a couple years before the Lord got a hold of your dad.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, because your dad your dad didn't want to be a hypocrite.
No, because he worked at Champion Paper and Fiber, the big mill in town, and people would come in on Monday and say, "Oh, I got saved in church yesterday," and then he would see no change in what they did, and the next thing you know, they were just the same old person. So he doubted that, and so it was hard for him to believe anybody got saved because that's all he's seen.
Yeah. So, your mom was praying with the neighbors
Yes.
for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
privately, quietly. They were
Yeah.
just praying
Mm-hmm.
until one night.
Yeah. And so my dad woke up that night, and there was the form of a person at the foot of his bed, and it said, "Stop smoking and preach." My dad was, "What?" But he got saved, and that night, and then in the middle of the night they walked about quarter of a mile, I guess it was, to a family member, a good friend, and so when he knocked on the door, when Della came to the door, she said, "I knew who it was. I knew who it was." And so, of course, they had a little reunion kind of thing went on there for a while, and but that's how my dad got saved.
Yeah. And you and your brother was just quietly sound asleep.
Yeah,
They just snuck out in the night.
they did.
And those prayers just finally just busted through, and God moved on his heart. And he was radically, there was a radical night and day difference
Yes.
in him, because he fought it. He was like, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to run to the altar and say I'm saved and then I look just like. He was like, if I'm gonna be that, I'm going all in.
Yeah.
But he waited for God to show up at his bed.
Well, I went into his room that morning. They were still in bed, and I got up, and it probably was a Saturday or Sunday morning, and I was 9 years old, and I looked at my dad and I said, "You don't look the same. You look different today." I don't know what I saw, and a 9-year-old, but I saw a difference.
Yeah.
And so that's when they began to tell me that they'd left me and Robert, my brother, in bed and walked down in what we called back then the holler.
Yeah.
It was just downhill all.
Yeah.
And
Because you had to holler.
yeah,
Down in the holler.
yeah. I don't know why they called it that, but that was what they called it. And so yeah, that's the way everything got started.
Wow.
With my dad, and then of course it was later that the Lord spoke to him about preaching.
Yeah.
And he was arguing with the Lord. He said, "I just went to the 3rd grade," which grandmother said he went to the 8th. But anyway, he always told everybody, "I just went to the 3rd grade. I'm not able to preach. I don't know anything like that. You need to call on somebody that's got some talent."
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't work that way. And finally,
He was stubborn.
yeah, he was.
He was stubborn. We got some stubbornness in our family.
Well, finally, at last, the Lord told him, he said, "I'm going to take your children." And he told him which one would go first, what would take them out, and how many days it would be for the next one to go. So
He was really fighting God.
Yeah.
And God was really fighting him back.
Mhm.
Like, okay, you want to do this? I didn't want to go this route, but Well, he changed his mind
Yeah,
real quick.
He did, because he said I couldn't take that chance, and of course he told him how many days between the two of us it would be, and he gave him all the details.
Mm.
And that's when he said, I'll do it.
Yeah. So, there came a point where, and I think you grew up, your dad, he transitioned into walking in his calling. Your mom, she had the gift of helps. She was, helping him with the church and all of that.
And
But,
tending to sick people and giving them shots.
oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because she had been not a nurse, but a nurse's aide.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew how to do all that. So she was on the side tending to sick people.
Wow. So, she, there was a point where you had seen them in the services, you had seen the power of God hit,
Mm-hmm.
and there came a day where your dad announced to his best friend, Zeb, right, that he was called to preach.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell me what you saw, and tell us how it was supernatural.
Well, my dad was an average height man, just maybe kind of like Bill over there. And Zeb was big. He was tall, and he was just a big man. And so when my dad said that, they grabbed hold of each other, their hands like this facing each other, and they jumped over the banisters of the church up in the choir. The two of them together all at once, just as slick as a whistle.
And then they just landed on their feet.
Yes, they did.
Bouncing and back, and you knew that was supernatural in that moment. There's just no way. Like, even if they were the same height, there's no way that could have happened unless they were in the glory of God.
That's right.
Because it just...
two different sizes,
How did they stay in sync, They were in the glory and in the joy of the Lord.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
They had to be.
Yes.
Your dad he was known for being a faithful servant of God. He changed the community. He kept his day job too.
Yeah.
Like, he still worked at the paper mill.
Yeah.
And people could see his authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that he loved the Lord. And he ended up discipling people at the paper mill. So he was teaching the men how to pray.
Yeah.
They were going up to the top of
They're going out on the roof.
Going out on the roof. And one of the people were telling you.
Yeah, a guy that I went to school with. And of course we had graduated. But I run across him in town one day, and he said, "You know what? I know your dad." I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah, I go out on the roof of the mill with him every day. We go out there and pray." So I was surprised to hear that.
Wow. Yeah.
So he was kind of excited to tell me he was out there with my dad.
Now, I don't know if you remember this, but like me growing up and just hearing about him, because he passed away just a couple years before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
So I always was like intrigued with him. I just loved hearing everything about him, and just hearing about him has inspired my faith walk. I can't wait to one day see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, aside from Jesus.
Yeah.
He's one of like my top people that I'm like, I want to go see.
Yeah.
But he preached, and when people would ask him to pray, he always would get on his knees.
Oh, always. Even if we visited a high class type church instead of country church, he would still get on his knees.
And he had something that he did where he put his hand on his ear. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know what the.
We never knew.
No, never knew what that was about, but he always did that. I don't know why.
As he was praying or as he was preaching?
Preaching.
As he was preaching. So he'd put his hand on his ear.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time where there was a child in the church that was, every time he went to go preach, he would get interrupted.
Yeah, by this little girl.
And I love how he handled that. Tell us that story.
Well, she would, when he would be preaching, she would yell out and do all kind of stuff. And did I say she was 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I guess he got tired of fighting it
Right.
that particular Sunday. And so he said to the mom, he said, "Send her up here to me." And said, "I'll hold her for a minute." So she knew my dad, so she just ran up there and jumped in his arms. And he stood there and prayed for her. And she never did that ever again.
Yeah. And he didn't do any crazy,
No?
casting out demons. He just very gently was like, "Lord, just fill her with peace."
Mm-hmm.
And whatever disrupting thing was inside of her never, ever disrupted the service again.
Not one time.
Full of tact, full of the fruits of the Spirit, gentleness, kindness, but he used his authority,
Mm-hmm.
his authority in Christ, his authority over that church as the pastor, and he just took care of that.
Yeah, he did, didn't it? It was hard to believe, but I couldn't hardly believe it myself, but not one time did that ever happen again.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, so there was a time in his life where he needed assurance of his salvation. He questioned it or he wrestled with it. And God showed him a vision. Tell us about that. About him seeing his name.
Yeah, well, my dad, of course, had a lot of people to, come in at work saying they got saved. And then he would never see any difference in anything they did.
Yeah.
They were still the same person doing the same things.
Same old things.
So he wrestled with that. And so the Lord told him that, let's see, let me get my stories right, Lord.
Told him that his name was
Yeah.
written.
He actually saw God write his name in the Lamb's Book of Life.
Yeah. Wow. He needed that.
He did, and I guess God knew that he'd seen so many false Christians come through that he needed something substantial.
Yeah. Just a little extra
Mm-hmm.
assurance, like your name is written in the Lamb's Book of
Yeah,
Life.
he did see that.
Wow. I can't wait to meet him one day. But he changed the community where he was, and there was a particular, and he was very, especially for his time, he had a prophetic gifting. The Lord gave him words of knowledge.
Yeah.
Especially he was ministering to a woman one time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Where's your husband?" And she said, "Oh, he's back there." And the Lord spoke to him and said, "That is not her husband."
That's right. That's right.
So he definitely had a prophetic gifting. He was the real deal. And the newspaper even interviewed him.
That they did.
And he made sure to have his Bible in that newspaper picture.
He did.
I have that picture.
You do?
I do.
He's
I
kind
love
of
that
leaning forward, isn't he?
And he's got that Bible.
Yeah.
He's basically saying it's not about me. It's about
That's what he
Jesus.
said. Yes.
But there was a time where he was red hot, fiery preaching, right? And he spoke prophetically, about his own life.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us, about the story about the clouds. He said, I'm not on, you've heard of Cloud 9.
He said, well, you've heard people say that they've been on cloud 9, and he said, I'm on cloud 29. And one of the deacons in the church had a number section in his Bible, and he looked at that, and it said, oh, slipped my mind, boy.
He said, y'all heard of Cloud 9?
I'm on cloud 29.
I'm on Cloud 29. And then Zeb, his best friend,
Yeah.
turned. And in the back of the sections, they had prophetic meanings of numbers. And what did 29 mean?
Departure.
Departure. And it literally was 24 hours later that he truly did departure.
That's true. It was the very next day, because that happened on Sunday, and then Monday he got up, and put on his work clothes and all that, because he was going to work in the yard. And so I don't know what happened, but anyway, my mother heard the doorbell, and it wasn't just ding-dong. It was ding, 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 ding. And when she went to the door and looked, he was laying on the porch. And so she rushed right across the street and got the neighbor and had him to come over. And she said, do something for him, do something for him. And Russell said, he's already turning blue. So nothing could be done. So that was just his time to go.
Yeah. And your mother, my mama, my great-grandma, she said such a short statement that has always stuck with me. When she went up there to say something, it was just like, what did she just get up there and say?
Well, she stood and she said, God makes no mistakes. But she grieved, because her husband was gone, but that's what she said, God makes no mistakes.
And she just accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
She accepted it as that he had run his race.
Yeah.
Acceptance and grieving are two different things.
Yeah, they are.
But she accepted that God was in control.
Yeah, she
And-
did.
Yeah. So there came a point where your mom and your dad was praying for you. I know that. I know that. So you had struggled with your own assurance of salvation. And tell us about that. Tell us about, you'd made professions in the past, but you never really, you're just like, I'm just not sure.
Yeah, that's true. I had I loved gospel music because that's what I was raised with. And so that was just common for me. And so I went home and turned on the gospel music, which that was really, a lot of places when I was growing up, not like today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I really was under conviction. And so I was changing the sheets on my bed. It was Saturday.
Yeah.
And I was changing the sheets on my bed, and finally I just had to fall to my knees. I just couldn't even stand up anymore. When I did, that's when I gave my heart to the Lord. And I was trying to think what come next.
So, you were living in an apartment with your girlfriend,
Yes.
right? Got to be careful to say girlfriend, but your friend that was
Yes.
a girl,
Yeah.
your roommate, and she worked different hours than you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got radically saved.
I did.
And then you got married. And then there came a point in time where God got a hold of Papa, your husband, my grandpa. But there was a time where neither one of you guys, were saved. And so, tell us about how God just orchestrated Papa's salvation.
Okay. Well, in the church, the women took turns of taking care of the nursery. You know, you do it one Sunday, and then next Sunday somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else. And so I got a phone call that morning. And they said, well, we just wanted you to know we need you in the nursery today. And I said, what? I said, I was in the nursery last Sunday. And they said, oh, I'm just so sorry, but we just don't have anybody else that can do this. So, of course, I said yes.
Right.
And went to church, and so finally I was downstairs with the kids where I had said what I'd do. And then somebody came to the door and said, come quick. I said, what? They said, I want you to see something. And when I got upstairs to the main floor, I saw my husband had gone up for salvation. And so that, I guess, what God was saying was, as long as you're standing there, he's not going to go. So of course I was so thrilled, and I went up there, and when I saw him and the preacher were hand in hand facing each other and jumping all over the place. Just big leaps, boom, boom, boom. I could hardly believe it. But I guess that would not have happened had it been.
Yeah. Wow. What an interview. What a testimony that my mamaw shared today, several generations. What we learned from it was never stop praying. Never stop standing for your loved ones. You never know when God is going to captivate their hearts. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you guys for liking and subscribing and sharing. Anyone who needs some encouragement, somebody who's praying in the gap for their grandchildren, their friends, their family, send them this video. And until next time.